Hey guys, how you doing? Just got off work. Got tomorrow off, and so that means this evening was burrito day. I'm starting to realize about myself that this is how I operate. When I got a day off, I go get a burrito. It's just who I am as a person. I believe it. Things to celebrate. Today I got my 69th subscriber, so nice. Uh, if you are the person who is subscribing for the 70th, that's wonderful as well. I'm so looking forward to hitting 70. That's going to feel really nice. I have dreams of getting to 100. That's going to feel good. As the whole day, I was really struggling. What the heck am I going to talk about today? And then the universe drops into my lap, literally as I'm waiting in line for my burrito. A story pops up on my news feed that is so incredible that it has to be talked about. Erin O'Toole, leader of the Conservative Party, talking to a group of young conservatives, which these days is essentially just kids who are being jammed into a political movement because that's their parents want them to go in that direction. Because if you actually investigate the Conservative Party for, I'd say, 2 minutes, if you're under the age of 20, there's nothing there for you, right? There's nothing there for you. Like, the Conservative Party's ideology and mantra and goal is to destroy the future for Canadian youth. Like, I just don't think that's you can have an argument about it. I don't think it's debatable. And this story is sort of case in point. So Erin O'Toole, in front of a group of young conservatives, says that the residential schools that Indigenous Canadians, First Nations people, were put into were erected primarily as educational facilities. That's what they were for. Really downplaying the impact that these residential schools have here in Canada on the Indigenous population, and pretending as though the objective wasn't to commit a genocide against those people in order to steal their land, which it clearly was. Like, obviously was. And even if it wasn't, to downplay the horrific horror show that is these Indigenous schools really begs the question, why are you doing that? Like, why? Why are you standing up in front of anybody and actually saying out loud in front of anybody? This would be akin to saying that, the Jewish concentration camps during World War II were primarily were just primarily to get labor, right? That was their primary thing. Like, we are talking about something that is on the same scale as Holocaust denial, right? To deny the intent and the impact and the importance of the residential school system here in Canada, the war that we inflicted on the First Nations people, is not only delusional, it is extremely dangerous. It is extraordinarily dangerous to do. And a person who is doing it, who is vying for the highest office in our country, is an extremely dangerous individual. Like, we should consider Erin O'Toole, after this statement, we should consider Erin O'Toole probably the most dangerous politician in the last 50 years in Canada. If not, maybe throughout the entire history of Canada. Because to make a claim on that level, there are only two possibilities, right? Possibility one: Erin O'Toole is an illiterate idiot, which is probably true anyway, right? He simply doesn't know anything about the subject, and yet he feels he has the ability to brainwash or lie to our youth about something that is a real stain on the Canadian consciousness. And to stand up in front of kids and downplay it and pretend as though it wasn't a massive sin that we perpetrated against the First Nations people and the Indigenous population. It borders on hate speech, and it borders on a crime, if you ask me. Right? Like, here in Canada, we don't actually have, like, the same kind of thing that happens in America, the whole free speech idea, right? If you walk, like here in Toronto, we threw a guy in prison because he was handing out pamphlets that were saying that we should round up the Jews, right? That's a crime, right? Inciting violence is a crime. It's not protected speech. It's not free speech. And we have similar ideas pushing through our legal system about Holocaust denial, about this sort of thing. That you don't get to pretend that certain things didn't happen in the society or culturally. Because the only reason to do it is, and reason two, which is probably the most likely, Erin O'Toole is a flaming racist. Right? Like, you can do what you want to a people if you don't give a shit about them. Which Erin O'Toole doesn't, obviously. Right? Like, who cares about the kidnappings? Who cares about the rape? Who cares about the assaults? Who cares about the murders? Who cares about the torture? Who cares about any of that? They're just stupid Indians, right? Who gives a shit? Right? Obviously Erin O'Toole doesn't. He doesn't take any of that seriously. He sides with the white educators, as he calls them. Well, not the white educators, obviously. He doesn't call them white educators. He just calls them educators. But obviously they were white. Because the goal, as far as Erin O'Toole is to just continue the subjugation campaign against the First Nations people, right? So why is this extremely dangerous? Well, it's dangerous for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, it means that when you have situations like happened, like the Canadian government is attempting to push a pipeline through First Nations territory, and not like a reserve, right? Not like territory that the government says the First Nations people can have. But unceded territory that Canada never had claim on. Territory that has always been First Nations territory and remains First Nations territory. It was never ceded. It's theirs. It's always been theirs. We're attempting to push a pipeline through it. And of course, under the Liberal government, this means assaulting First Nations people. This means sending our CMP officers to assault First Nations people on their own land. And that's what the Liberals are doing. So you can imagine what the Conservatives would get up to, right? The Liberals are being aggressive. I would say aggressive is a proper word to use. The Conservatives are just going to burn the place down. Like, they don't give a fuck. And obviously, if their leader is denying the impact or importance of the residential school policies here in Canada, he's obviously not going to give a fuck. Like, he doesn't care about these people at all. Right? A racist like O'Toole, they're not even people, right? They're like dogs, essentially, as far as he's concerned. So, but it's dangerous for another reason, one that's more insidious, one that's more odious, which is that if you have that level of denial or delusion inside of your consciousness, if you are operating with that kind of level of deep racism or deep bigotry in your thought pattern, if you're willing to maintain that kind of a lie inside of your consciousness, then there's no level of lie that you're not willing to perpetrate against others or against yourself, right? There's no, like, I knew a fellow one time who actually believed that he was a prophet. He actually believed that he had the divine ability to see the future, right? Once somebody believes that of themselves, you can't trust them anymore, right? Because if they believe a lie like that, then there's nothing they won't believe, right? And a man like Erin O'Toole, because he believes an overt and obvious lie that is extremely racist, then he can lie about anything and believe it of himself, right? We can cut funding. We can cut funding and services for poor people because they're just dirty poor people. Who cares, right? If they wanted to be better, they'd pull themselves up and do a better job. It's their own individual fault that they're in this position. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're continuously cutting their funding and continuously structuring the society to ensure that they fail. That has nothing to do with it. No. It has everything to do with the fact that they're just dirty poor people. And as we all know, poor people are just inferior, right? So we can abuse them all we want, because if they didn't want to be abused, they'd be born rich, right? And everything I just said there, like, that is how conservatives think, right? That's like conservatism 101. If you don't think that way, then you can't be a conservative. Like, really, it's gotten to that point. And the fact that they have elected a leader now that is willing to lay down some, like, heavy, high level, like, this is like flat earther level. Like, this is like very, very dangerous, because it means that let's say Erin O'Toole gets elected, it means that the leader of the country genuinely believes that he can just destroy a people and shrug and be like, well, we know better, right? He's going to side with the genociders. He's going to side with the people who committed the kidnapping, who committed the atrocities, right? This would be like a person just being like, oh, the Holocaust wasn't that big a deal. The Germans, they seem like a good people. That Hitler guy, he seemed okay, right? Like, it's on the same level. It's in the same ballpark. And I think if you pretend otherwise, I'm going to really ask you straight, like, why? Why are you pretending otherwise? Like, why are you defending why are you defending the actions of genocidal maniacs who literally kidnapped children, stole them away from their families, and tried to commit a genocide against their people? Like, why are you defending that? Why are you pretending like it didn't happen? Why are you pretending like it's not part of the history? I mean, for someone like O'Toole, it's pretty obvious why he wants to pretend that, because those people have resources that can be stolen, right? Their labor can be exploited. We can enslave those people and make them do stuff for us the way that we always have, the way that we continuously do. And if they're willing to do it to another people, they're willing to do it to their own citizens. That's the true danger, right, for white Canadians. Because this is what it's always about, right? The true danger to white Canadians in the Conservative Party is that if they're willing to enslave another people or commit a genocide against another people, they're completely willing to do it against their own people, right? Just so long as they're convinced that you're poor enough so that you can't really fight back. Because that's all it's about, right? It's about power and it's about bullying. And it's about domination and control. And Erin O'Toole has revealed beyond the shadow of a doubt that not only should he be considered unelectable, he is an unrepentant, racist fascist. All right, that's the end of this. If you like this content, I got more of it up on YouTube. I do the longer videos, a little bit more personal on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, hit all the buttons, hit all the things. You could be the 70th subscriber. Who knows? Send me to the moon. All right, guys. I love you all. Good luck out there. I hope things are going well.